An echo?
Yes.
Zip, you still got echo coming out of one of your speakers. It wasn't there until you got here. You farted. Stop.
How about now?
Check.
Is it
Check.
gone?
There's still a tiny
it
little bit of echo. It just
How about
reminds me
now?
of a Led Zeppelin record from the 70s. Are we ready to go? I think that's pretty good. Let's start.
The Bob and Zip Show with Nick Kelly.
All right. We are back. This may be our fourth or fifth. I lose track of anything once it gets to a number bigger than 4 of our live streaming podcasts. It's 2022, the year in review with Bob and Zip. Zip's a little under the weather. He actually has a hall pass from his doctor. You're recovering from a cold?
I am. And
Your
haven't had
internet
to come up
connection
with
is
a hall
recovering from a
pass
cold, too,
until
by the
this
way.
program.
Okay. And Andrew Rivers joins us. We're going to speak with Shawn Alexander in just a little bit. And, of course, Spike O'Neill shall come charging in like the proverbial bull in the china shop in just a bit. I'm your host with the least, Bob Rivers. And what were we just talking about? Oh, Zip, you make TV commercials for a living, right?
Well, stretching it a little bit.
Yeah. Your face could not be any blurrier if it was a 1930s film roll of a World Series. I mean, you have the worst camera. Your screen's blown out. And and your internet connection is acting up because the dogs are watching Netflix.
We
again.
have
Something's
issues. I can't understand you.
Yeah. You're not feeling well. Should we
This
let
is
you go?
awful. This is as bad as I feel. It took me a while to hook up the wiring to be able to fake myself off the show. But that's fine.
Well, if the cold doesn't make you feel like shit, the insults from your friend will surely brighten your day.
Oh man, reverse laughter is.
Hey, hurry up and enjoy the show. We need a punching bag, please.
Yeah. Zip and I have a long history of unconditional love. And if he put conditions on it, he'd have left me long ago.
Before I go, and
Yeah.
I really do want to know this because we played it the other day on the regular terrestrial broadcast last Saturday.
Yes.
With you and Keith on the what was the title of the track?
The Kids, where I'm talking to young Andrew and Keith about Santa Claus and Jesus, by the way, who should be tighter than they actually are in Christmas advertising.
And at one point, one of you pipe up, and what was put it in context.
It was.
Bob.
Have you ever seen Santa or something? No. Why not? Because he's always at work or something like that. That's the line you like.
It was
right?
like a solar plexus sucker punch to old Santa Claus, your father. Was that you, Andrew?
I have no recollection. The only thing I've been told is that they had to make me cry for a song, and so they gave me a toy and then snatched it away and put a microphone in front of me.
It wasn't a toy. It was a Snickers bar.
Oh.
Yeah, we held out candy just to the point where you could touch it because we needed a crying baby for that, rigging up the lights part of the song. And if we held the candy and by the way, Keith brought that up.
Yeah.
And was telling my granddaughters about it, which felt... So, because he played the song for them and he said, you know how he got Andrew to cry? And they looked at me and Hazel said, how did you get him to cry, Grandpa?
And she's taking notes.
And I'm like, really, let's talk about something else. Let's talk about something else you're not old enough to be ready for. But yes, we held the candy just out of your reach. He cried, and then, of course, he got the candy, and now he has diabetes.
Well,
He'd be in a foster home if you pulled that today.
Yes.
That's right.
there is a long history of using your children to manipulate. Keith tried to get me to feel guilty for missing Christmas because of the snowstorm. All the flights were canceled. I couldn't I couldn't make it down, and so he sent me a video of his daughter crying and saying, "I want Andrew to come."
Yes.
And he is a director, by the way, so this could have been completely staged.
Most likely he held Candy just outside of her reach.
Right. Well, she didn't even say the line. She whispered it could have been anything. She whispered something in his ear, and then he repeated it back. She said she wants you to come.
I don't
And
trust
I'm
Russian
like-
translators either. It's just that who knows?
Yeah,
what
you
the
never
really
know.
good set.
But I'm going, how am I supposed to feel about this? And how do you explain an ice storm to a child? Should I send a photo of my car in the ditch and say I tried?
That's a good idea. And with Photoshop, that's not hard.
No.
Deep fake.
I did see the 1/4 of an inch blizzard.
Yeah,
that
it
you
was
got at your
it
house.
was a disaster.
It
Yeah.
was terrible, but it was really the ice rink.
Yes.
All the cars sliding around was kind of crazy.
So what I did in return, I don't know if you saw the video, Dad, but I filmed the video back, and I said Santa needed me at the North Pole because he said you're getting double the amount of gifts this year, and you're getting a car on your 16th birthday. So I figured, if he's going to use his kids to manipulate me, I'll use his kids to manipulate them, and they'll grow up happy and healthy and with a full sense of
Entitlement.
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. It was a really cute video. It's
funny.
Something weird has been going on, though, because Andrew has been, I don't know if, Zip, you're on Facebook. You've seen it, but you don't post much. But Andrew has been, like, speaking nostalgically about me and talking about the Twisted Christmas songs and how impressed he is. And I
it's
thought,
a renaissance.
well,
Yes. Well, you're almost dead. I'm practicing for the eulogy.
thanks. So I was like, where is the sucker punch coming? And there she be. No, it's very nice of. I had no response to. I'm used to being tormented back. I noticed I said back.
Yes. Well, everything is a bit with you. It's very funny. I forget sometimes who I'm talking to because you called me up and said, "Are you feeling okay?" And I was like, "Wow, gosh, yeah, I had been sick for a few days, but I am feeling better." Oh, well, it must explain why you've been saying nice things about me on the internet.
You were sick.
As opposed to all the mean things I constantly post about you. But yes, making fun of your absent-minded memory and misplacing your guns and stuff. But
Where were we?
Keeping in that same reminiscing vibe here real quick, and I think I brought this up with you a couple of times, Bob. Do you recall at Disney World, I think it was, they brought all the morning shows down. It was one of those cluster broadcast type things.
Yes.
And
Back in the days when we were important and they would fly us around so that we would say the word Disney. Now, I have to pay the same as anybody else for a Disney Hulu subscription with ads. But yes, go ahead.
So, do you remember? Andrew, I don't think you were on the planet yet at this point, but Keith was on that trip, and it was the final day of the. Do you remember
this was when we were flown to Disneyland and they closed the park to everyone but radio people.
Was it Epcot Center?
It was
Maybe
Epcot Center, and
Epcot,
Andrew, you
yeah.
were there, but you were like 3, and we took you because it was a free trip. Like it was not like your mother would be like, "No, he's coming too. It's free. Of course he's coming." I mean, he's like goo goo gaga. He doesn't even know what the right. It's okay. It's a free trip. We're all going. But I remember that Disney flew almost every radio host from around the country, and they shut down Epcot Center for 3 days. And so you got to go there as a VIP and not have to wait in any lines, free food, free buffet. That's the early days of radio.
But it turned into a rather traumatic experience for me. You don't remember this, Bob. But the last day, there was a breakfast, the goodbye breakfast before the shuttles took everybody to the airports. And the Disney characters were there. And all these morning shows, I don't remember who was there, but it was pretty much anybody who was anybody in radio. And I get up to leave, and Lisa says, your mom says to Keith, I guess, say goodbye to Uncle Zip. He's got to go back to Boston or whatever. And Keith stands up and yells at the top of his lungs, "See you later, butthead." To which the entire room erupts in raucous laughter. And I was like, dewy-eyed by the time I got to the airport. But do you remember that, Bob?
I do vaguely remember that, and I do think it was Keith, but it's really almost more Andrew's style at that age because he was the contrarian. Andrew is the type who, if we went somewhere spectacular and wanted to take a picture, he would just block his face. We tried to take him on a hike once, beautiful Glacier National Park, and when he realized we're going to walk without going anywhere, he just sat down in the middle of the trail. And as parents, look, it's a battle between kids and parents, which I got to see, being at Keith's and Leanne's and watching the granddaughters, because when you're a kid and you start to get cognizant, you see these parents as opponents in a chess game of getting what you want. And you're so young, you're not even sure what you want. It's sort of just whatever strikes you in the moment that you want, before you have any judgment whatsoever. Yeah. And so your parents are thinking, foolishly, how can I manipulate my children to behave the way I want them to? And the children are thinking, how can I manipulate my parents? And what is actually happening, and parents don't realize this until much later when they watch it happen to their own kids, by trying to manipulate your kids, you're teaching kids how to manipulate. And kids, like adults, learn stuff slowly. If I want to learn a song on the piano, like when I was playing with those Heart guys, I took like 40 hours to learn a piece that if I was 12, I could have picked up in an afternoon. So what parents don't realize is the child's brain is designed to beat you at your own game. Like they're going like, oh, if I act like this and make them feel that way, they'll just wear out. They're older. They just do not have, and kids have such stamina. I mean, especially two young girls, 5 and 8 years old, they speak like screech owls. They scream. They just, ah. That's how they express happiness. That's how they express boredom. That's how they express everything.
Yeah.
And the house is beautiful house. It's very echoey. It's they'll come running through. At one point, Christmas morning, when they're opening their presents, they opened a present and because this is another thing. A kid will open a present, and if they don't understand it, they'll just put it down and go to the next present. It didn't explain itself to me right away. It was some bookish thing that was like very good for the kid. And this one was particularly Georgia or something. And someone said, well, that's not express that you love the present. And I just said to them, why don't you guys scream? And they both went, and they were like invited to scream. It was the most exciting thing. And I don't think boys do that. I think it's girls. I don't remember screaming as a kid ever. Someone who has boys besides me would have to say if boys were screamers. And I don't know what it is about girls screaming. Is it built into their DNA to call for help if the village is being attacked? You know what I mean? Is it a tribal thing? Where am I getting into dangerous ground here now, Zip? You have that look on your face.
No, I was just, the whole point of both these stories were just that the acerbic wit seedlings were planted at a very early age.
Yes.
And they were already feeling their oats.
So I guess what I'm revealing unintentionally is that it's in my family's DNA to get aggressive from the moment you're able to speak. Is that right, Andrew?
I don't know. I relate a lot to the contrarian label. Even to this day, if someone tells me I have to do something, I absolutely throw a fit and don't want to do it. I think that's sort of the thing that appeals to me about my career now is it's a majority in my hands, and I am reaping the rewards of my own work. And I think a lot of that stems from having an older brother that was very popular and having a father that was very popular and wanting to sort of carve my own path and wanting to be like, well, I don't need them and I'm independent and I can do what I want and I'm in control of everything. So I do remember sitting down on hikes. I do remember complaining. I remember covering my face.
For pictures, for family pictures. Georgia does that, by the way.
I was just I was an asshole.
Hazel a little bit, but Georgia will be like, can we take a nice picture with Grandma? And she goes, "Urgh."
Yeah.
And
it might be something with the youngest of feeling like you're not getting the attention you want, so I'm going to protest and not give you anything.
It's also that they really, Keith and Leanne are such attentive parents.
Yeah.
That it's hard to compete with mom and dad. This was not the way it was when I was a kid. My mom and dad were the disciplinarians. Both of them had rules and consequences if you broke the rules. And I couldn't wait to get to Grandma and Grandpa's house because Grandma and Grandpa would have a big dish of candy with no guard on it. It was an open dish. There was no fish and game warden to say, "You've had enough candy." It was like, there's candy.
I
there.
remember visiting your mom's house and there was a dish of candy and I was just staring at it. I was in the kitchen just kind of keeping an eye on it. And your mom actually called out and said, "Oh, there's candy. Help yourself." And she knew I was looking at it.
Yeah. But see, that's the traditional role of grandparent.
Right.
And so with our granddaughters,
Good cop, bad cop.
well, with
Yeah.
our granddaughters, and I love them and I want to spoil them, but they're, what is there that they haven't got already? And so, like Lisa, so what we do is we're more mellow than the parents, but we're mellow and spend time and hang out and put your arm around them, watch TV, help play a game or something. But at one point yesterday, before we left, Lisa said, "I don't think my granddaughters like me." I shouldn't be saying this on the podcast because people will hear it, but too late. Anyway, so I said, no, they're just, we're not throwing a constant party because, we're the boring grandparents. They do love us. They gotta, you gotta just hang with them. And she was like, "Well, I asked Georgia to take a picture of me and she did this." And I went, "She does that to everybody."
Yeah.
And so I said to Keith, could you take a nice picture of, Grandma with your granddaughters? And seriously, this is the opposite of most, I believe, the opposite of most families where Keith goes, "Hey, Hazel and Georgia, pose with Grandma so I can take a picture." And they immediately went, around Grandma, and they did what he asked. Now, that was not the way, I know, I liked my grandparents, but not my parents.
So you're saying Keith doesn't give them the discipline that they maybe need?
This is the part I'm not saying. What I'm saying is they love their parents so much.
Too much.
Again, let's bring in a
I'll
lawyer.
read between the lines for you. Yeah,
Hold on, let's bring in Shawn Alexander because you're
If
putting
you calling-
words in my mouth. Isn't he putting words in my mouth, my son? Shawn Alexander, our lawyer friend.
Greetings. He may be putting words in your mouth, but you're keeping your mouth open and put him there.
Look, they love their parents so much that it's hard to compete. That's all I'm saying. Cross-examine me if you like.
The defense rests, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, you're the offense or whatever. The prosecution. What do you think, Shawn?
I think that you're too sensitive, that you're being too worried about something that doesn't matter. Now, the kids, they're happy.
You mean my wife, Lisa? I'm being too worried about her. Because I'm
would
cool
say-
with it, but she's the one who's like, I'm not sure if they're.
She is very caring and empathetic in certain situations.
Certain
And-
situations, yes, that's right.
Because she is Lisa. She will tell you what she thinks, and there will be no filter. And that's a good thing. It's way better than someone's
Remember when I
gonna lie
told you to
you.
turn up your microphone before? I told you
Yes.
to turn it up too much. All right, I'm turning it down. Keep talking.
You can turn it down. All right.
I got it. All right, you can back off 2 inches. It's fine. We could see more of your goatee.
So the what I'm hearing as evidence is
Yes.
the covering of the face, and what I'm hearing of the problem is a feeling that that's an insult or someone doesn't love someone.
Yeah.
Little
It's all in
kids,
your head.
That's how they act.
Yeah,
Somebody
you could turn your
probably
mic
do
back
that.
up a little bit because it went way down too much. And
that
this is what
better?
happens when we're live. Yeah, that's perfect. Keep talking. I should never
Okay.
have said anything.
All right. So, I don't know.
Recess
think
for lunch.
she's
It's
too
time for
worried
lunch.
about it right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was a blast, and it was so good to be there and see them. And to me, because we've lived on the other coast for a period of time, it's really more a matter of just hanging out and having hang time, so you get to be like a regular presence, and that's really the reason we moved back to the West Coast. It was tough Sunday when I went to my phone to check on our boarding passes for our Southwest Airlines flight from Las Vegas, Bob Hope International Airport. That's, by the way, you're a huge celebrity. Andrew, that's a lot to live up to. If you want to be a comedian who's really successful, have an international airport named after you. There's no Carrot Top International Airport.
It's always good to have goals.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, the plane goes boink, 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 boink. I don't know.
I mean, I'd be happy. No, if Andrew was talking about my dad never got to be Weird Al, but he was, happy being a mediumly successful song parody. And you said something about how.
Well, I
they were
said
good.
that the real ones know that you're the better artist, but that, art is not fair and life is not fair. And, we can relitigate all the things that happened to you that weren't your fault. And I'm experiencing many of them in my career to this point. And
Sure.
I express
Like, give me an example of
gratefulness.
something that's not your fault. That's a good one. I like that.
Oh, something that's not my fault?
That happens.
Oh, I mean, I signed a contract to be on NBC, and I canceled my first weekend headlining at a Funny Bone, which owns and operates 20 comedy clubs across the country, thinking, well, I'll rebook when I'm a famous star, and they'll be so grateful that I gave them
Sure.
a month notice, when in reality, I could have just waited. But then I got cut from NBC 2 days before they
that
filmed.
show, yeah.
And now I'm selling out pizza parlors across the country. So look at me now.
So you're saying your career, you took a left when you could have taken a right. Like a lot of career stuff, by the way, what you're saying, a lot of it is totally by chance, by accident. And
I mean, you realize how much of all of life is just 1,000 coincidences coming together, and dating. It's like even real estate. You guys moved into a bad house at first, and then you kind of had to know somebody to like say this one is fresh off the market. It hasn't really been listed yet, and then you get in there before anyone else.
Well, yeah, we move like nomads, though. We've moved every 4 or 5 years, and if your mother wants to be somewhere else, I would take her there in a heartbeat. What we ended up doing here is we moved into a 55-plus community, and I would not. Well, there's a couple of things I would never have told you. I would never have told you we'd move to Las Vegas. I wouldn't have considered that. And I would have never said we were going to move into an age-restricted community either. It's a total accident in a way, but then when I thought about it, we can make friends. It's hard to make friends with families, with kids, when you're this age. And it's hard to... and so we didn't really know any neighbors or have any friends. And here already we know each person around us.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
it is easier.
yeah.
You have common interests. You have,
Yeah.
you're both on the lawn at 8 a.m. going, get off my yard, you whippersnapper.
That's not
and then
exactly.
And then you go, oh, that guy's doing the same thing. We
Sure.
should be pals. Yeah.
On the career, you don't regret any of your turns, do you?
There are no. My only regret is, not working harder from the beginning. But again, you have to learn those lessons yourself. And
If only you'd had an older mentor who would have given you some suggestions.
If only there was some cool
Yeah.
old guy to just put his arm around
who
me.
wasn't your dad, because it was
Yeah.
immediately
Again,
since being a
You
kid.
trying to tell me something, I'm going,
Yeah.
I refuse.
And this is a good thing between parents and kids. The parent, in some ways, is the opponent. The parent can't help in certain areas. You've got to learn from friends or people you admire, right?
Right.
Yes, Shawn.
Well, I was given instruction never to comment on who my daughter dates ever. Not a word. Not good. Not bad.
Can you write it
And
down
it
and
has worked
slide
out-
it to me on a piece of paper under the desk?
Yeah, and it has worked out great. The one time that we had a problem, and her mother and I were not together, but she said she is with this guy who just will not listen. He's just really the wrong guy. But he really wants to go to Hawaii and visit his parents. So we bought him a one-way ticket and gave it to him. And he didn't look to see that it was one way. And he flew there to visit his
You
father.
said, I've got a
And
ticket for you to go visit your parents?
Yes.
And not come back?
Well, we didn't tell him about coming back. And he got a girl pregnant in Hawaii, and he's there to this day.
He got a different girl pregnant. So let's
Yes.
give your irresponsibility a 2-week vacation with some other girl you meet, and then we'll see what happens. That was brilliant. Yeah.
And it worked out
Yeah.
marvelously. But I was told, and I still, to this day, do not say. I really like her boyfriend now. But, there have been a few that, I wasn't that crazy about.
They're gone.
I
They're
was-
history.
Yeah, and it's exactly what Andrew was saying is anything we say, they go opposite. They're like, no, that's you, it's my parents. And I did the same thing. My dad wanted me to do stuff, and I said, no way, Dad, I'm going to do what I want to do. Years later, I have said, and I went and told him that I wish I would have listened to him. And he laughs.
I think that's a universal truth. Just like kids, parents don't know they're teaching their kids to manipulate. Kids don't know that kids get into the idea as kids that the parents are the opponents.
Right.
And then at some point in their teen years, their parents are just trying to bless them with as many helpful tips on avoiding the mistakes and potholes I went into. But they're still too young for me to say, don't do cocaine. I can't say that yet.
You
I have to say-
accidentally let that slip.
I did. Well, that was you were much older, but you. In other words, so the parents are, and the kids think they're trying to manipulate me to keep me away from that van with the guy with handing out the candy. I'm not going to be manipulated, and so but at a certain point, you get to the point where you go, oh, my parents were right,
Yeah.
and it's the greatest thing as a parent to hear it, and then you have to do what Shawn advises all of his clients to do.
Shut up.
Not, I told you so. Not, see, I tried to warn you. You can't do that stuff.
What is beautiful now is that the process is almost working in reverse, because, you just the other day you told me, like, you were on the phone with a guy for 15 minutes before you realized he wasn't from the IRS. And I'm like, stop picking up the phone for strangers. You know,
it was a woman.
Even if it's the real IRS, they're just trying to
got the
take
right
my
thing.
money. You
You should
just
do this
stop.
as another bit about how stupid your dad is. This is a great
I mean,
bit.
listen, you used to have to sit me down and be like, the guy doesn't have candy in the van, and now I'm sitting you down like,
yes.
yeah, the Better Call Saul was a documentary, you idiot. Like, stop answering the phone call.
It was actually, I was waiting for my Social Security benefits to come through, and Social Security sent me a note saying someone will be calling you. But at the same time, there's all kinds of information available about people who just turned 66. And then scammers can get that information. And they call you and go, hi, I'm with the IRS office. And I'm on with this woman, and I'm starting to tell her, well, here's our new address. Here's this, here's that. And then at one point, the me from younger in my head goes, how do you know she's really from Social Security? It was Social Security, not the IRS. And I said, so I said it to her. I said, how do I know you're really from Social Security? She was like, well, I'm at this office at this address. I'm like, wow, that's impressive that you know the address. What else can you tell me? She said, well, here's my badge number. And I wrote down her badge number, and I said, now, not having access to a database of everyone's badge numbers, that doesn't really confirm anything for me either. And she started to get irritated with me. Look, I'm here to help you. And if we can't continue this call, then we can just delay your benefits. We'll do it by mail if you like, but it's going to make it take long. And I went, and now you're threatening me with a fear of loss. I went, bye-bye. And I hung up.
You've become a toddler all over again. You know?
I totally have.
You're too trusting.
It's just not in
You both wear diapers and Velcro shoes.
Hold the candy away from my face.
Every time I visit, I'm like, put the crypto down. It's not a toy. Put the crypto down.
All right. So, one other thing, though. In addition to the things you wish you had done differently, or maybe not wish, but you learned from, I think that's a good way to look at everything, by the way. There are also moments where you totally, when I say you, I mean me, where I totally screwed up. It could have completely ended my career. Zip was there for many of these. And it's only...
racing you to my demise.
We were both like, how can we be better alcoholic drug addicts? And when I think back on the fact that, like, because there's certain things that are not your fault that, could have made your career bigger. But boy, there were things that were my fault that would have preempted any career. And I feel for young people today, because back in our day, a security camera was something very expensive that only a huge giant corporation could install. It was, they were $10,000 a camera, and even recording them took these big, huge tapes. And social media, there was graffiti on some bridges. That was it.
Yeah.
And so stuff Zip and I did, if it were recorded.
Well, yeah.
Wait a minute, my attorney is giving me that look. No, I recognize that look.
Yeah. You are lucky now.
Yes.
Those things weren't recorded, so we're going to repeat them now that everything is available for
Get them on
stream.
tape. Yeah.
Well, we're gonna walk to the edge of that cliff and then. But
yes, comedians encouraged to, a lot of the creative process is writing your worst ideas down. I mean, that's what I tell a lot of my up and coming peers is to, if you, in a way, if you censor yourself before you even get it on the page, you're going to lose a lot of good ideas. And so sometimes the negative result of that is people sort of ganging up against you and taking things out of context, which can be, luckily for me, I have 10 podcast listeners, so I can kind of say whatever I want.
sure,
and
you're not going to do too much damage. That's
yeah.
good.
But I think about that a lot because I wonder, like, it's interesting what gets canceled and what does. I can't believe that Van Gogh paintings are still worth millions of dollars.
Why?
I mean,
Because
he cut his ear off and mailed it to a woman. Talk about unwanted advances. He's like, I'll show you who's a good listener, and-
However, it was original.
You got my ear.
You have to give him that. It was original, and there's
Yes.
no Me Too movement that follows a move like that.
It had to be hard to flirt back then, I imagine. You can't just send a text message with a picture of your penis. You have to paint it and have someone deliver it, hey, this one's for my mom, this one's for my girlfriend. Don't mix them up. You're a bird. This is going to go well. But I have a friend who's like 21 because I'm hip and I'm cool. And
That's young for you to have a friend that age.
well, she's the comedian that we tour with on the Hofstetter tours.
Oh, I know her. What's her name again?
Leedy Corbin.
Lita. Yeah, she's very. I haven't. Does she? She's a comedic artist. Does she
Yes.
also stand on stage or not?
No, well, she'll deliver them on the
Yeah.
stage, but yeah, she's drawing basically.
She's awesome. Yeah.
She's great. We were like watching a movie on tour, and then like a canceled actor popped up on the screen, and we kind of like kind of ruined the movie because you spend 10 minutes going, I kind of forgot about that creep, and you're thinking about all the bad things he did. And I was thinking we need like a Netflix for liberals right?
A
Because we
Netflix
have
for
like the
liberals,
Netflix for Mormons where they edit out like nudity and all the offensive stuff. But we can list all the actors and what they got canceled for, and you can decide whether to skip the, like possession of cocaine, not a big
Yeah, yeah.
deal,
Yeah. So we
oh,
kinda-
jerked off in front of a woman in his trailer.
Okay,
oh,
this is good.
it's a
Thank you.
really
This
good
is
movie.
So glad you didn't come to see the granddaughters this weekend. So, no, that's good. And there is actually something like that. It's called Mr. Skin. Do you know that guy? He takes
That's
only,
That's not the what you're.
he takes
yeah, okay.
only the nude parts of movies. It's because I don't want to watch it. I just want to watch the nudity.
How much dialogue do you have to skip? Here's your pizza. Wow.
That's it. No, I'm talking in.
I know.
Never mind.
I'm
know.
kidding. Yeah.
All right. It's time to bring on Spike O'Neill, Andrew Rivers. Thank you so much. Hang out, because who knows what's going to happen.
I'm going to
when-
bail, actually.
All right. Zip. Quick, say
Zip.
something to Spike though before you go.
Spike, Happy New Year, my friend. Congratulations on the gigs. You too, Andrew. Quite a year. And a healthy new year for both of Bob and myself. And Shawn, too.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Can you guys am I okay? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're
We
good.
can.
Spike Zip wanted to basically come on today to prove that he didn't have COVID. He's recovering from a cold, but he really wanted to call in sick. So you're doing good, Zip. You could stay or you can take off.
I'm going to get some rest.
All right, you should lay down and get some rest. Drink plenty of fluids.
All right.
Only
Just-
no more
just
alcohol.
Remember
Please
though,
stop
with
that.
the Van Gogh bit, right?
Yeah.
Van Gogh can only send a dick pic one time. You know that? At least with ears, he had two, right?
Yeah.
You could do the ear trick twice. That's good. All right, Spike, welcome. How are you doing? Oops.
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you. I'm sorry I ran late. My wife is in project mode here around the house. Can you hear me?
Yep, that's okay. I can crank up your mic.
Can you hear
just
me
a
now?
hair. Yeah. Oh, that's better. If you get right in front of it,
Okay.
it's good.
I can too on this end if you need me to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it was project day around the house. Moving bedrooms. She's moving out of mine into her own. It's a sad day for. It's what I want, but it's what I wanted for Christmas, so it's all good. You know.
And this week you are you're doing not your regular show. I know. You're doing not your regular show on Cairo. On Cairo, you're doing mornings. What's it like to face that alarm at 4? What time
Yeah,
does it
I'm
go
doing
off?
mornings, but it's 30, and I did
4:30.
because I didn't know any of the processes involved in running the Cairo Morning News, and I'm literally not even doing what you did because the content is all decided. I'm just reading intros, running interviews with various news guests. And then now it's time for traffic brought to you by others. Now it's time for weather report brought. It's
He's cutting
I'm
it
just
in
Captain
out, right?
Billboard.
For everybody. Yeah.
Am I?
So your internet.
I'm perfect, and so
Yeah, it sounds good in your headphones because you're just monitoring your own microphone.
I know.
it's,
Yeah, 'cause I'm just. That's all. I always
turn the computer a little bit and put some tinfoil on the window. Do something.
Spike has always thought he's been perfect in his own mind, so it's not really a departure from the norm here.
No, it's definitely as time goes on
Always.
and more
That may
devices
help
in your house.
a little bit.
No, you know what you should do? You should actually go near the router and call us on your cell phone.
Yeah.
That'll
Try
actually
reconnecting
work.
through my phone.
But do it in a room closer to your
okay, I
router.
was about to say,
it's the
can
first
I-
time you're doing it from home in a
Hang
while.
on.
And all right, we'll wait for you to come back. Live streaming. Let's see if I haven't even looked to see if anybody's watching us this week because I'm trying to do things a little bit differently. Okay. Oh.
Did you
Best
call him and tell
parent-
him?
Someone said best parenting ever. Oh, Amy Ulan, you are so wonderful. She was on the Star Trek episode with us. She was one of Star Trek's fans, and we won walk-on roles on a Star Trek Next Generation. Well, it was
I
wasn't
remember.
Next Generation. It was which one was it, Amy? You're gonna have to tell me, and then I'm gonna have to scroll through all of these. Spike, how's your singing voice holding up? Someone is asking. Joel Brazy is there, played on many twisted tunes, great musician. Thank you, Joel. I'm going to say hi to people quickly. Someone told me, a friend of mine told me, I hate it when you bring up all those texts and say hi to those people. I'm tuning in to hear you guys. Still, we got to kiss a little bit baby's ass here if we want it to keep coming. So, Joe, say hi. Spike in a few minutes. That was already out there. Oops. When are you bringing back nude stock? Yeah, we've reached an age where if nude stock, all right, how do I get rid of that Spike thing? I have no idea. This is okay.
You want to talk about evidence that might cancel your career?
Yeah. Well, there's no career to worry about now. But we're at that age where if nude stock happens, it's because I forgot to put on my pants. It's not going to be. It's not going to be a planned event. It's going to be he's wandering again.
Wow, ticket sales are real slow this year. I can't imagine.
Yes. Okay. Let's say hi to a few more folks while we're waiting for Spike to come back. Okay. Hawley's Boats and Motors. Oops.
I know Greg Butke. Tell Greg Butke I still got his speakers.
Okay. Sean, your friends are calling up to confess their crimes.
Oh, no, it's my crime. He
No, it's your crime.
He had a wonderful set of corner horn speakers, big clip speakers, and he needed some cash. I said, I'll take those.
All right.
I still have them.
All right. It was Enterprise. I moved
That's right.
to my YouTube channel, Amy. Oh, yes, Amy, you're right. Enterprise. It was we were on the Enterprise. That was the show, and it starred which starship captain? Amy, you should just send you a link and you should come on with us. Amy should talk about that sometime. But you when you won this contest, which I competed heavily against BJ Shea to do this promotion, he wanted it for KISW. You got to bring a listener. You got to have a walk-on role on Star Trek. And it meant you were like in engineer's clothes, basically. In one case, I was tapping on touchscreens on a wall. Only they really weren't touchscreens. They were just like lights that had some writing on them. And the writing was pretty much gibberish. And I had to just push random buttons. And they didn't really like that I was on the show. So they pushed me over to the side. Amy, good-looking blonde, but also younger. And me, someone actually whispered to me once behind the scenes at Star Trek, you're lucky you got in that spot because in the future, no one has gray hair. And then I realized it's an ageist show. There's almost no... What they do with old people, I don't know. It's supposedly the futuristic generation of Star Trek where Gene Roddenberry envisioned this perfect world where there's no money and there's no fighting. There's wars, but always with other species.
Yeah, not a lot of old starship captains. Probably not surviving a ton of wars there.
Well, they had a few. They had that Captain Pike who was, handicapped, so he was EOE. But no, there would be on the crew of the Enterprise. There were only basically young people. Maybe Spike has something to say about that. Are you back? That's
back.
great. That's
Is that better?
Oh yeah, much better.
Are you familiar with the term Soylent Green?
Yes.
Yeah, that's where old starship captains. Let's go to the mess tent. What do you guys think? Huh? Yeah.
Yes. All right. Oh, I'm glad you're back. That is so much better.
Yeah. You know what? I wasn't connected through Safari downstairs. That was the problem. I was connected through Google downstairs.
It's supposed to be Chrome. Oh no! It's actually
no,
it maybe is supposed.
Safari.
Maybe I don't know.
Because it gave me the option. Give me the option to connect on Safari up here. I did that. So
this is a better set for you.
Well, yeah, I've got my Christmas tree.
Yeah.
Oh Tannenbaum, oh Tannenbaum.
Right.
The other one sounds like your studio.
Yeah.
Like your wife sends you into a closet. Go record with your friends in there. Don't bother us.
All right. We're back. So, all right. Spike, I'm going to give you the floor for a second. I don't know if I sent you a few topics, but I don't know what you.
I don't know if I saw them yet.
Okay.
I don't want to talk politics. It's so funny. I've been kind of gearing the night show at Cairo about lifestyle stuff and relevant stuff to the audience. And like the day they recommended 4 charges against Trump, I pushed the story for 2.5 hours, and we had a great night and an interaction with the audience. And I said, well, we've been putting this off, but it's kind of historical when they recommend 4 criminal charges against the former president. You effing libtard, blah, 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 blah. Why don't you talk about Nancy Pelosi's husband banging that male hooker, blah, 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 all the stuff you get. So,
Sure.
I'm like, whatever, you guys. Come
Well,
on.
if
So-
you put chum in the water, what do you expect the sharks to do? No!
Well, we're entering a new interesting time because we've all got. Oh, he's back. We got to get along with each other. Like
Can anybody hear me?
if I thought all these anti-vaxxers were going to survive, I wouldn't have called them grandma killers and everything. So
That's a good joke, Andrew, but if I can't hear you yet. You can't hear? This is live streaming, folks. Live streaming. Let's say hi to a few people. Hang up and call back. That's all we can do. Hi, Caroline from
I
Vermont.
can't hear anything.
Yeah, it's on your end. Just hang up and call back. If I type hang up and call back. Oops. Jim, he shouldn't say things like that. He's just brilliant. He's still working. I'm not. The second time we were on, that's right, we were in the Star Trek Next Generation costumes because it was a time travel episode. So I actually got to be on a show with Jonathan Frakes and Marina Sirtis, who means nothing to you two. Okay. It would be like if you got up on stage with Kanye before he became a pariah.
okay.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of which, I have some old Yeezys. I have some shoes. I don't know if this sentence means anything to you. Yeezy shoes were popular at a time.
Okay.
Do I just give those? Do I throw them away? Do I give them away? Should I sell them? Is it offensive to sell them?
Goodwill. Have you ever
Sell
been?
Am I? But then
Tell them to
some
donate the money.
Yeah.
kid is gonna pick them up and he doesn't know what they mean, and then he gets called a racist, and then I'm passing the hate down. But also, they're $300 shoes. I want to get some money back. You think
Sure.
Jews would respect good business like that?
Spike?
Oh, I think let a rat live in those shoes. That's kind of poetic justice, Yeah, I know. Everybody's. Did you hear the guy, the Republican representative that lied about his resume, lied about his religion?
Yes.
His name is
I was
Santo, right?
Jewish. Yeah.
Yeah, he did. He actually said, "I was Jewish." Like, oh my God, that's
Depends on what the meaning of ish.
Yeah, right. Imagine the TV show. Black-ish was okay. Imagine they try to do a TV show called Jew-ish.
Yeah.
Hey, I like bagels and I'm uncircumcised. Where's my place in the world? It just boggles the mind how people.
Do you want to come over for me? This is a good bit.
Yeah, really. You can't even run a fucking Dairy Queen if you lied about your employment history, your academic history, and your fucking religion. You can't run a Dairy Queen, but you can go run a filibuster on the House floor. We've really risen as a people. It's the experiment's going great. Yeah, I'm ready to hide under my desk.
Can I counterpoint to you a little bit?
Sure.
I'm a little scared doing it, though, because you're experienced and a professional who does this 5 days a week. And by the way, I'm the same way with Dory. It's like, I'd love to debate stuff with him, but it's like you don't get in a sword fight when you pick up a sword just once in a while to see if you can use it.
Right.
So you're speaking as if you've just discovered that politicians are not truthful on purpose.
Whoa. No.
Yeah.
No. I think
See,
we have
by the
lowered-
way, my sword is not even out of its sheath yet. But go ahead.
I point to Al Franken being benched for having his hands near a woman's tits in a photograph.
Yes.
I mean, just near, right?
And by
now
the
we
way,
got a
that's the
guy
other
who's
thing. He's got
Jewish.
arrows in his quiver. He's got so many arrows in his quiver that if I wanted to make
And
a point,
it doesn't matter what party this guy was in. I don't care at all. If a Democrat lied about everything he did to get elected, bounce his ass.
But I guess
You
what
know?
I'm saying is that this happens routinely through history, and it's a from Socrates' time, from the Garden of Eden, from where well, they didn't have a condo board then, they didn't have a homeowners association.
An HOA in the Acropolis.
Yeah,
These columns are so tacky. I don't get it. What are we?
in other words, it's human nature. So when you see someone in an industry that attracts sociopaths being a sociopath. Now you get it. To
Multiple
feign-
personalities, a plus. Yeah.
to feign surprise is also instead. And by the way, I agree with you that such behavior is wrong.
Well, it used to come with consequences. It doesn't anymore. It's seen as a plus, not a bug.
Let's let Shawn
Martin
Alexander
Taylor
speak.
Greene's-
I was going
Taylor Greene's a moron, and she's the number one fundraiser in the Republican Party.
We have a lawyer
It's an
here, so
asset now.
let's talk about consequences. Yes, Shawn, go ahead.
well,
You got to get
well,
back
what I
from
was
the
going
mic
to
now
say
because
is politics has been.
you're overloading the mic a little
All
bit
right.
again.
I
That's
was
good.
getting excited.
Nope, that distance is perfect.
I'm just getting warmed up.
Yeah, politics has been a dirty game for a long time, and anytime you get into the power, you're going to have that kind of a problem. People are going to lie, they're going to cheat. That's how it works. Being able to navigate above that makes you better. It doesn't make you a winner.
There's
I
another
think-
aspect to it, by the way, that's in John Medina's newest book called Brain Rules for Work, and I love this guy, so I'll give you a plug for his book. There is it's a measurable scientific fact that power itself corrupts and alters your ability to see what truth is. And it makes the people who are not at your level seem like others. And if we know the history of human tribalism and wars, as soon as you can redefine someone else as the enemy, they cease being human to you. And and I'm going to agree with you on this part, Spike. What's different about now is that everybody's got a bullhorn and torches and pitchforks on a global scale and can be part of these reactions that create, I'm going to say it, hatred for people different than them, where it used to be just, oh, you're a Republican, well, I'm a Democrat, but now it's like, how could you be part of that horrific cult of libtards or MAGAs or maggots, as some people affectionately refer to them, and I don't think either is true. I think that when two people who are neighbors, for example, who vote for different political parties, hang out in a social situation, they behave together as civilized human beings, and none of that is real. Like, I'm friends with you, and I'm friends with Dory, and you two could pretty much be on opposite poles, North Pole and South Pole, but I see you both as really good people. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, but when it comes to the
Mr.
homeowners
Heatmiser.
association and the condo board and what's going to decide who gets to steal my cheese and who's doing this and what's fair and unfair, quickly my voice gets all rankled. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I can put out a Marine flag, but not a Pride flag. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
It's by the way, in my
What if you have-
55 plus
what if you have
neighborhood,
pride
that
in the
would be a
Marines?
problem. I think.
What if you have pride in the Marines, right? Semper Fag. What do you know?
I would just say, don't ask, don't yell. Sean, go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to say we hear a lot about male toxicity, and there is and that generates a type of behavior that's real contrarian. There was a really recent study about toxic plasmosis, which is a little microbe that people get, and they can trace that bad behavior to people with that microbe, and so they could look at how people who they just fight against everything you say, everything. It doesn't matter right or wrong. They just argue with you. Okay, Lisa. And so it's
Lisa's
funny
here.
to see
she's
that.
she's teller to my pen, by the way. She's my teller.
No, I'm not.
Basically, he helps me with the magic tricks, but she does not want to actually speak. Also,
That's
she doesn't have
okay.
headphones
She's
on.
just
Yeah.
there looking
Good to
good.
see everybody.
Yeah.
You too.
All right.
And unlike Teller,
Merry
she doesn't
Christmas,
even work
Lisa.
the whole show. She just comes in for 10 seconds. Okay.
I got a joke for you. You know the difference between Republicans and Democrats? Republicans are con men. Democrats are con artists.
There you go.
Very nice.
They're just better at lying to you. Lie to me, in a good way.
Good way.
I think lying is an equal opportunity option for people, no matter what their political persuasion. But Sean, go ahead. You weren't finished.
Well, no, we look at different variations on the truth sometimes. Sometimes people, what they say may be what they believe, but it might not actually be fact. And that's kind of a gray area. And in
Yeah.
my job, I have to get evidence. I have to show what's what. And I can't kind of, well, we could say
Well,
things seem bad.
It's funny you say that because the first thing that the January 6th committee tried to do was I'm saying this.
I'm sorry.
And
I'm sorry.
this is to Sean's point.
Sure.
If they had to prove that Trump actually knew he lost, because if in court, if he could argue that, hey, I honestly thought I won the election, it could undermine any chance to charge him with any kind of crime.
That's right. And you cannot prove, Sean, we've talked about this. You cannot prove what's in someone's mind, no matter how much it looks like.
Right.
We do. There's two elements to crime: actus reus and mens res, and that's Latin for evil doing hand and evil doing mind. And that's what we have to prove: is that an evil doing mind, the intent. And Spike is right. That's the first thing they proved. Well, they laid that out pretty well.
They did.
That's like.
All right. So I had this argument, this
if you're a
debate with somebody
prosecutor.
the other day on what's
We don't
gonna happen.
debate. We don't debate because debates put people on their defensive. We discuss.
All right. Well, I wasn't discussing. I wanted to put them on the defensive. Who was I talking? I was talking to a dear friend of mine who's a total libtard like yourself, and good-hearted, but also really resentful of people who, in his mind are just dishonest and idiotic. The other side. And he said, Trump's going down. He's going to go to prison. And I said, I don't think that's going to happen. And he said, oh, no, the preponderance of the evidence. They proved this. They proved the 10th, the January 6th, blah, 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 blah. I said, yeah, I kind of feel like no matter what, there's going to be a negotiated settlement. Like maybe he'll be indicted. But if he decides for the good of the country not to run, and, if he stays in this lane or that lane, it'll be in the best interest of the country not to prosecute and put the whole country through that. And besides, for our whole system to work, there has to be trust on both sides. Everywhere around. One of the interesting things about the United States is everyone in the United States thinks we're original. We've got this whole Democratic Republican thing. We've got conservatives. We've got libtards. We've got MAGAs. Blah, blah, blah. We've got the populists. We've got this and that. If you go around the world, the blend of human nature and the splits are almost identical. They are maybe on a different schedule where populism gets popular in one area sooner than another. But social media has caused this effect pretty much around the world, and everybody's dealing with the same instances. And COVID caused inflation and stagflation and all of the things that we're experiencing all over the world. So it's not like you could put a sticker of Biden on a gas pump and say, I did this, when
And
it's
yet they
happening.
do.
Well, of course. Imagine people in politics taking stuff out of context to try and herd their herd into voting that way. Everybody does that. But it's fascinating. It's if you had a sense that we're all brothers and sisters on this planet, and that we no longer actually a country is now like a neighborhood. Forget that this whole your country is separate and different and can control the rest of the world, even though the U.S. And by the way, Sean has pointed this out to me at coffee on Orcas Island many years ago. Why the United States is the boss. And I'm sure he remembers why we're the boss.
Well, as I recall, we project our power.
We have guns.
Right.
Yes.
We got the bomb.
We have the
when we
most
park-
guns.
If we park an aircraft carrier somewhere near your coast and we can cover the entire country with a threat that we may not do anything, but we could.
Yeah.
That's one way to project power.
And we're the good guys based on our propaganda telling us that we're the good guys. But we pretty much rule the world. And some people in the world don't like being ruled. Think of them as children on Christmas morning. Think of them as seeing us as their opponents. And yeah, they're evil because our news tells us they're evil. But maybe they just have some evil sociopaths at the top. Now we've seen what that's like.
Yeah.
Yes. We have.
Ooh. We can't say that too loud.
Yeah, don't worry. China's got all of it. If you're on TikTok, the Chinese government has everything you ever say.
That's
every
true.
dance you ever danced, every fashion change up you made. China's got it all.
What are they going to do with all that fashion information? How are they going to use it to control us?
they're gonna make it and undercut us on price, and they'll be in Walmarts everywhere fast quickly.
They're running out of young population to work in factories, so
They really are. I'm so sorry.
they're headed towards a collapse. And I mean, that's why
are.
Apple isn't going to be able to make a new phone for the next 2 or 3 years, because they've got all their manufacturing in China, and they're going to have a lot of people dying in the next year because of COVID. It is funny. This is what's funny to me is in the middle of the pandemic, myself and maybe mainstream news was going, well, China's really got this figured out, the zero COVID, and it turns out that was the worst strategy all along. But
Well, a couple of points. You have a point in that some places procrastinated COVID, and COVID eventually came to them.
now the problem is their vaccine wasn't effective.
See, he reads. My son reads now. I used to tell him, you should read. Yeah, their vaccine was very ineffective. And so as a result, COVID will eventually get everybody.
Right.
Well,
and as a
that's because
result,
they made their vaccine with the extra red lead paint from the Thomas the Steam Engine toys.
Sure.
They just dumped all that. into
They
the
copied it
vaccine
like
and-
all the
yeah.
Mariah Carey CDs they sell
Yeah,
to each other
yeah.
without paying for royalties. Just total bigotry and total prejudice. I love it
Well,
when it's
no,
our
no.
bigotry and prejudice.
It's actually their
Here we
business
live
model.
with Chinese slaves making our iPhones and our clothing, and we talk about how they don't have any integrity. And
Well,
they,
if the Chinese aren't trying to steal something, they're not really trying hard enough. That's a business model in that country. If they're not trying to renegotiate their deal upon delivery or steal a secret from you to make it better for Chinese, you're not working hard enough.
and that would never happen here in the United States.
I'm not saying we don't do it too, but that's their.
I'm not
that's
saying
their
that.
blueprint.
Okay, so
It's their
I,
deep- It's
Again,
their
these are
default
just the
position.
rules of life. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
we
this-
can all
but
in-
pretend
in-
like
in our country,
it's
there are
the
rules
same in
against
every.
that, though.
Our country isn't better than their country. That's
it
propaganda.
is.
No, it isn't.
Yeah,
well.
We're
We
all
have
brothers and
more
sisters
access to
on this
natural
planet.
resources and better borders to defend, and it's
And
harder to
huge
invade.
guns pointed at you.
Sure.
Right, forgot that.
Where did those guns come from? We built them. This is the people that argue for a sense of nationalism, you know. This is taking that to a whole, other level, but we had a chance to develop because it was cold and miserable where we lived, and we were like, we got to get the fuck out of here. If you were born in 1400 in Jamaica and you're like, this plant's fucking awesome, I'm just going to chill by the beach all day. There is an evolutionary factor in that. So it's
Of
not
everything,
saying
yeah.
that they're better or they're worse than us, but
Environment.
yeah.
Okay, let's. This is awesome, by the way. I like how this is going. We're getting used to seeing each other on screen, and we're not talking over each other as much as it was when it was just audio. With audio, everybody put a blindfold on and try to imagine who talks next. So I like this about streaming. I also like being live, but also the show will be recorded and still distributed on all our podcast platforms, so you can listen to it anytime you want.
So my mom can hear it.
This is, by the way, my friend who said, I hate it when you put those messages on the screen. His name is Brian Cornfield, and he just sent me a nice
He
message.
put a message up.
Yeah. Here's, according to some Americans, China is much better because they already have a Great Wall. Hello! Yeah, I think I think the biggest worry you should have in the United States is not China stealing your copyrighted music or renegotiating business deals. I think you should worry that they have the leverage to do so because they are very creative, very hardworking, something Americans at one time took pride in, seem to take less pride in our hard work now. That's the conservative side of me speaking out.
Well, the
And-
problem is the population is, the baby boomers. You made all these, you have this huge young population, and then when we urbanize and when we globalize everything, we move to the cities where kids are just expensive furniture, and then we don't want to make them. So
Right,
now there
field to
are
plow.
yes. On a farm, kids are free labor, and you need that. Like exactly.
Yeah.
And so, as our generation stops making kids, that's why we have to be open to immigrants, because we have to keep a certain. People go, no one wants to work anymore. There's just not people. There's no people. Like we stop making people. And so the guy that I think is smart and that I think is right, sort of says that we're going to have sort of a deglobalization and a move away from urbanization, and it'll be interesting to see what the next 50 years holds.
Shawn?
I agree with what Andrew's saying. I look at it from a personal standpoint. I want to achieve energy efficiency on my own. I want to achieve what do I say? Food. I want to be able to
security,
get food security. I can't. I'm at the end of a very long supply chain all the time, and we don't have the people. Exactly what Andrew's saying. We don't have the people to do the service work. They can't afford to live here.
Right.
And, it's a difficult situation.
Well, your
Meanwhile-
situation on the island is becoming the standard in Seattle.
Yeah.
Service industry can't afford to be in Seattle anymore.
Meanwhile, Spike's in front of a 18-foot Christmas tree with lights blinking and
70-inch
you
Was
can
that
see
70-inch LED?
you can see
Fireplace.
his Christmas decorations from outer space. It's that lit
I'm dreaming of some white privilege, just like my grandpa used to know.
Yeah.
Record that song. That's great.
Yeah. White privilege is a good one. All right. Well, folks, we're doing good. We're at about 5 minutes after the hour.
Can I tell you something non-political?
Yeah, please.
We had to
if
really,
it's so hard for you, by the way, you
I
could
know.
say, I want to talk about Girl Scout cookies. You go, before January 6th, there was no
Well, no.
problem.
No, you remember the game 6 Degrees of Separation from Kevin Bacon, right?
Yes, I do remember that. Yeah.
I can make any problem Donald Trump's fault in 6 moves or less. Any problem,
That's a cat.
you name
Yep.
it. No, for Christmas, right? We scaled everything back this year out of necessity, as everybody did. We all knew it was going to be a tight little Christmas, and the gift list was pared down. More practical gifts were given. There was give a cash card so you help people pay the utility bills this month, or buy new tires for their car. All the things that you're doing, and so we kind of dematerialized Christmas this year, which I think maybe been the best thing that's ever happened.
No kidding.
Because it was. Not only was it, not this endless embarrassing
So
stream.
you didn't spend
of
as much on
prizes.
presents? Is that what you mean by it?
Exactly. Yeah. We didn't. We
And you
bought a
already
couple
had that
things.
tree. That's plastic. It was made in China by Chinese labor. Children.
You know,
put that
you
together
know
for
the
you.
story on that tree, right? You know the story
No,
on
I
that
don't.
tree.
No,
Okay,
but
so-
the one I just made up, it's the one I'm fond
Was
of.
pretty well. No, that's the backstory to my story is that it was made by little Chinese kids because their fingers are so small they can put the bulbs in. In 2005, we went to Florida for the holidays. My sister was getting married, and this is when we were in the top of our game, and we spent like a week at the Grand Floridian in Disney World for Christmas. We had a treat in our hotel suite. I mean, it was white fucking privilege. Pardon me. And every
I don't know
afternoon
how
while we were-
you do a broadcast radio show. I really don't.
every afternoon when we were at the at the
Are you
Magic-
getting these out of your system now
Yes,
so that
I
you
am.
don't
Yes,
have a
I am.
fuck to give by the time you get on the radio?
It's like the T-1000 spitting bullets out after the gunfight.
Sure. It's good.
No, every afternoon we'd be at the park, and a nice Mexican woman would come over and clean our room for us because we were white. No, so we came back for that after the holidays, and we hadn't decorated at all that year. We had just skipped Christmas at home, and I really missed doing all this.
Yeah.
And putting the lights up outside in the whole 9 yards. So that next year, I went up and was determined to get the biggest tree you ever saw. And Bob, I know you've heard this story before. I mean, the Honda minivan, this thing was 3 foot over the front fender and 3
And the
foot
back.
over the back fender.
Yeah.
And when we brought it in, the trunk was at least 16 inches in diameter across.
That's a long time ago. You've had this a long time.
That was 15 years ago.
If you have it long enough, it's good for the environment, that plastic.
Exactly. This is our 15th summer or 15th Christmas with this tree. Well, with that tree that scraped the 14-foot ceiling, after I cut a foot off the bottom of it, my wife couldn't breathe in the house. The pine was so strong. The allergies almost killed her. Literally, she'd walk in the living room and her eyes would just swell shut. And Christmas morning, she came out here for 20 minutes of coffee and gifts and went back to hide in our room.
She's
And at
crying,
6
and you're like, it's just a coffee pot. It's not that
Right,
amazing
it's
of a
not-
gift, honey.
It's a mop. Come on, I barely put any thought into it. But Christmas night, she walked out with a limb saw and said, "Get that thing out of the effing house." And Christmas night, I took all the ornaments off, sawed all the branches off, so I could get the trunk through the front door, and it was out of here. And the next week, she went out and bought that on clearance 15 years ago. Anyway, that's our tree. Now,
And you bought it after the
after
New Year.
Christmas
That's what I've done
on
too.
markdown. Yeah. Well,
I left it in Vermont, but I bought a tree on January 5th on purpose.
But what made this Christmas so special, and and I'm gonna show it to you really quick.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna walk around and kind of show it to you. We had family members make things. My wife lost her dad this past year. And I'm gonna show you the ugliest gift ever, and it actually made me cry, but not because it's ugly. See that?
Oh,
My sister-in-law
Little
made that for my wife.
is that
Okay.
ties that were given on Christmas? Were they all given at Christmas, or some of them on his
No.
birthday?
Just this was given to my wife at Christmas, and those are ties her dad wore to work his entire life.
Oh, that is awesome.
And my sister-in-law made that for us.
Oh.
So he did for Melissa for Christmas. It was that kind of day. And I'll show you one more thing, and I'm really embarrassed to show you this, but it's pretty freaking cool. So this is my dog.
Is your wife hiding from this podcast, by the way? She lives with you, right? Yes.
This is my dog.
Okay.
That's Ferris. She's
Okay.
10 months old. And my daughter, my beautiful, my child, as I'm learning my pronouns, my child has a partner, and they are very happy. They're both freshmen in college, and they're both very much in love. And her friend, Nadia, gave us a Christmas ornament. And that's the Christmas ornament. Can you see it?
Hold it to the
There
light.
you go.
The dog.
There it is.
Oh, that's your dog. That's beautiful.
That's our dog.
Yeah.
I mean, you would not believe how much that looks like our dog.
Well, hold it down
I-
next to the dog because I can't really. Yeah, I don't trust anybody these days. You could be totally making that up.
Now you can get rid of the dog and just keep the ornament. You know?
Yeah.
There she is, and there's.
Oh.
I mean,
yeah.
Yeah. And I said, where did you find that? That's perfect. I made it. She made it out of wool.
That's
She should
cool.
live in China. She'd be making your iPhones too. Great.
Anyway, so it wasn't a lot of materialism. It was a lot of thought and heart, and it was really the best thing that's ever happened around
Here's
here
a
at
thought.
Christmas.
Here's a thought from a viewer. This year, people went to more practical gifts because the stores had nothing because of fuel shortage and supply chain issues. I don't know. I think the supply
I
chain's
don't know.
fixed by now on Christmas gifts. I think they got
It's-
last year's
it's-
gifts ready for this year. But
Yeah, I don't know that its supply chain isn't corrected, but I really didn't have a problem finding things at Christmas. If things were expensive was the problem. Things got through and there was food in the stores, but everything was so expensive.
yeah,
It was amazing how gas dropped after the election, wasn't it?
yeah.
How when the high price gas didn't work, the oil companies realized they were the
Oh,
villains
you think
that
that was a
bailed on gas
conservative
prices.
conspiracy?
I think it was. I think petroleum
companies
prefer
wanted a red
Republican
wave?
administration. Absolutely. Come
Have
on.
you got documentation? Can you prove evil mind? Can you prove evil intent? Can you prove evil doing?
Look
I
at their
can prove-
donations.
I can prove donations and
Sean's actually
drilling
agreeing
and-
with you on this.
Oh,
one.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
Good.
Come on. You know,
Oh, that's-
releasing up the Earth's natural resources for our great American energy independence.
Well, wouldn't it
So-
be great if there was some great Democrat that could help fight global warming? But unfortunately, you're stuck with Elon Musk.
Yeah, I know, right?
Ouch.
Well,
and Biden is the
to my
dirtiest president ever.
to my
Oil
devil's
wise.
advocate arguing, the conservative principle of free market competition is going to take care of the oil companies. It's just going to do it very slowly. And everybody who's entrenched in power resists being dethroned and tries to game the system in their favor. Sean and I used to have talks about this with healthcare, for example. You know, you can't reward success by cutting them down because they have too much power right away.
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
slowly, bet on the newcomers, right, Sean?
Well, let me rephrase that idea for you. What I used to say is that the reason people are going to push towards electric cars is not because of the sound or how good it is. It's because you don't have to fix the damn thing. When's the last time you gave your refrigerator a tune-up? When did you change your oil in the washing machine? Electric motors keep running. The consumers will push for this.
He was telling me this, by the way, maybe 10 years ago. Before, I think Tesla was like, a sperm that hadn't met an egg yet, and what they say, a gleam in Elon Musk's eye.
A twinkle in his eye. Yeah.
Yeah, a twinkle in his eye.
I tried.
Elon was still giving his kids real names back then. That's
I don't know if you guys have seen my Jeep. I used to have a Jeep. I still have a Jeep, and I tried to convert it to electric power in 1994. right? I was looking at it in '94, but it wasn't the numbers just didn't make sense, and it wasn't ripe at the time. And I've said this is what we're going to move to, and it won't be because industry is pushing there. It'll be the consumer demand once they realize how easy it is, because you have to be a goddamn magician to keep a gas engine running.
Yeah, but by the way, you can't convince a libtard that Elon Musk's a good guy, and you can't convince a pubtard that we're ready for electric vehicles, that the grid's not ready. What about the children who are dying making the batteries? And they'll complain without using a phone that children died making the batteries of, by the way. It's just
all of those complaints, they may be valid and they may not be, but they don't impact the consumer who's actually going to buy a car because he doesn't have to change the oil in it.
To your point, Shawn, my Tesla, I got December 23rd, 1 year ago. It has never had a repair. It has never been to a gas station. I actually looked at it and I went, like the other day I had to go to a gas station because I had a rental car. And I was like, oh, this nozzle is really gross.
I'm so primitive.
Somebody's touched this. And I had to push the little thing and select my grade. And I was like, what feels so wrong about this? And I realized I haven't done this in 6-8 months. And the car, I mean, people always say, like, what if you run out? There's not enough charging stations. Well, first off, it's a Tesla, so there's charging stations everywhere. But second of all, I leave with a full tank of electricity that's going to go 300 miles every single day. I've never had to charge unless one time I went to Palm Springs and I stopped for 20 minutes and had a bite to eat and, filled it up to 80%. So, but the real reason, Shawn, those are mine, but the third one we haven't talked about, the total killer, is that electric cars, and Elon Musk discovered this, there's so much profit margin in them because much like your refrigerator, the motor is like a refrigerator motor. It doesn't break. I think I read somewhere that an internal combustion engine has like 300 something.
Well, I was going to say, yes, there's more than 300 parts in an internal combustion engine that move around and do stuff.
Precision connections to the engine. Yes. And whereas an electric vehicle, basically one, but when you count the computer monitor and the little thing that turns your stereo up and down, there's like 5 buttons on the whole thing. And so when you think about it, once you get past the research and development, it's the same with Viagra, by the way. Once you pay all the billions to make it, then it's just all cash. A cow, and so there is so much profit in it that he quickly became the richest man in the world. He's going to go out of business any minute, and every other car company immediately started building plants and announced that they were going all electric, mostly by 2030. And then third in line, by the way, please note this: third in line were the politicians, and like Newsom in California, I'm going to require that all the electric vehicles be electric by 2030, which coincidentally is when Wall Street and everyone else is only going to make those. But I want you to think that I had something to do with it as your politician. And the politicians are wagged by the industry. It's not the other way around. Politicians don't. I mean, they can game it a little bit. Shawn, you're pursing your lips like you have something to say.
You're right on with the progression. The politicians have done that in Washington too, and they've said, "Look, you're not going to buy a new car in Washington."
Virtual signaling, in case there's any libtards on the show who want to know what that means.
Well, and I have,
Sorry.
and
Look at him. He's got Jesus on his side. He's in front of his Christmas tree. I can't.
Yeah.
Really.
Well, I live and I have lots of friends in the petroleum industry. And I watch tankers in front of my house every day. They're full of oil. They go by all the time. So I know this is a real industry, but I also know it's a dying industry. We will not burn the last barrel of oil. It will be too valuable. We will make plastics and drugs with it. That's what you do.
Something's got to make those little caplets that prescription drugs are in. Replacement batteries are expensive, though. Patty, the first LCD TV that I saw was $10,000. And by the way, replacement engines are less than replacement batteries, right?
Right.
Sorry.
Well, that's a pricing problem. And, I would happily buy a new battery if I never had to buy gas again. Because
Here's another one, by the
that'll
way.
evolve too. That'll
All right,
evolve too.
I know I'm doing this. EVs are great until the batteries begin to discharge and no longer hold a full charge, and you live in an area where the climate doesn't affect range. Former Nissan Leaf owner. Okay, if you bought the very first computer, it was very unreliable.
Yep.
It would get the blue screen of death. It would reboot. So yeah,
It was $7,000 too.
and you bought a Nissan Leaf because I don't know why.
Hey, nothing wrong with Nissan Leaf. It's the Conestoga wagon of electric cars. Come on.
He does bring up
The
a good
Prairie
point.
Schooner.
He does bring up a good point about batteries not as good in the cold. That is definitely a factor. So let's see, what could we do? Could we keep burning fuel oil and destroying our planet, or could we make better batteries? What do you think, Boo?
I was going to say, luckily they stopped any kind of evolution of battery development. It's never going. It's never going to be
batteries
better.
are
Stagnant.
all right.
yeah.
All right, I think we're done now. Are we done? Andrew, you haven't said anything for a while. Is this old guy talk to you?
It's just on the edge of partisan nonsense to me.
Nice.
Oh,
nice.
sorry.
Hey, it's
No,
your
it's
planet. We're the
fine.
ones
It's
shitting
just
on
is
it.
very like we know both sides of this argument.
Yeah,
it
we do,
seems
we do.
very obvious that
yeah.
like gas prices are controlled by people investing in gasoline futures. Everyone realizes gasoline doesn't have a future. Saudi Arabia is lying about how much gasoline they have left over. Pretty soon we're going to have to buy from Venezuela, maybe. We're withdrawing from other countries and, letting them run their own. We've been the world's policemen for a long time, and the world is changing. And, it just doesn't. So, of course, there's a story about, which country is it? Well, in a way, I don't know if the analogy is perfect, but the African slave trade, they used to manipulate the price, and then they didn't learn to fend for themselves or diversify their economy. So we're going to see countries that were heavily oil dependent fail in 10 to 20 years. And, this is where I feel bad, where we blame America a little bit, is we show up and we take advantage and we say, we'll build all this infrastructure and then we leave and then we say, all right, peace out. You're no longer useful to us. And we leave them in shambles probably. So,
right.
but yeah, a lot of the belly aching, it's very like low level. And it's like, once you get above the clouds and see sort of what actually causes things.
Spike and I will let Shawn talk, so there's less belly aching. Shawn, go ahead.
Thank you.
You could put a cap on it.
Well-
and
Well, I kind of now I've forgotten what I was going to say.
perfect. That was a perfect cap for it.
There we go.
Well, yeah, oil prices are not. Yeah, it's not set by a president pushing a dial or moving a button. It's OPEC, and they're a gang that controls everything, and they can
I know what I
decide
was
what they
gonna
want.
say.
All right, Shawn, go ahead.
Every
Shawn
time,
go.
every time
Go ahead.
Andrew speaks, his hair is so beautiful. I can't even remember what I'm saying. It's not even. Seriously, man. It's beautiful.
All right,
He's
hey,
done a
Shawn.
nice job. Well,
All right.
what I was going to say is the blame is a waste. To blame this country or that country, that's a waste. What you need to focus on is how we're going to fix the problem that we
Yes.
created. Yeah, we created it. So let's get over the blame part. Just move on to the fix part.
That would end all political talk shows, actually, if you started that, because they would be like, fix stuff. Who's going to listen to me talk about that? All right.
Yeah.
Puppies and kittens, 12-3 every day.
Puppies and
God
kittens.
grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change,
Yes.
the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference.
Thank you. All right, we're going to call it right there. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We appreciate it. A lot of people on the edge of partisan BS on the texts. I'm sorry I don't have time to get to all of you. So tomorrow, I just want to let you know, I mentioned this last week, that I'm getting surgery. It's nothing huge. Well, it is huge, actually. I have this huge hernia that makes it look like I'm in an alien movie about to give birth. But it's a hernia. And apparently that's not a terrible surgery. And I'm apprehensive because I've had one of the worst surgeries you can imagine, and so the idea of this one will be fine. I'm mildly edgy, and I appreciate all the words of good luck and support and all that, and I do believe in the power of prayer.
The hard part is over for
at it.
you, so
Yeah.
we're excited to get you back to full health and
Yeah.
back out and hiking and doing all the things you love.
Yes.
It is for the hiking that I'm doing this.
I'm
yeah.
just proud of you for actually listening to your doctors and not blowing off the small stuff since you've taken the big stuff already.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
you don't want to blow your ankle out doing the victory dance in the end zone. So pay attention.
And there is, and look, with cancer, as so many people who are listeners and viewers have mentioned to me, there really is no victory dance. Once you've had it, it can always, you live scan to scan, it can always come back. I'm in a very good space right now. It does realign your priorities a little bit. For a lot of people, maybe not everybody, some people get depressed, and I feel grateful that I don't have time to be depressed.
My teenage daughter is right now fixing my tech as we wrap up this podcast.
Oh, is she?
So the last 30 seconds should be just technically perfect. And,
Hi, Darby.
Better lighting, better,
Yeah. Darby, fix it up for next time.
Yes, please.
Want to say hi? Hi, how are you? Good to see you. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas, Happy New Year.
Okay. So anyway, that's happening tomorrow. I'll be recouping, they say, only 3 days. And then after that, just don't lift anything for a while. So someone will have to tell Lisa that I'm not lazy.
Tell them they said 7 days.
Yeah. No, it's 30 days. 30 days. Can't go swimming for 30 days.
Yeah.
Which is why it's good that we're doing it in January. And another friend of mine also says he has a hernia that he mentioned something from Caddyshack that it looked like, and I can't remember exactly what it was.
The gopher popping out of the hole there.
Yes, it's like the gopher popping out of the hole of Caddyshack. A good friend of ours, by the way.
Well, the good thing is we're on a live stream, so if anyone has any ailments or some suspicious rashes they want to put to the camera, there's probably a doctor in the audience.
We'll start that next year. When we come back,
Does this look infected section of our show? Yeah.
in January, we'll start notifying everybody who's on our mailing list of the exact start time of the podcast. This has kind of been, the beta testing of it to see, first off, if we wanted to do it. It's definitely better to see each other. It's also good to have input from the audience live, to do a live streaming show and record it as a podcast. We intend to do more with it next year and bring you on board. So thank you very much for listening and viewing. You can always email us, show@bobrivers.com. You can also become a VIP. And what does VIP mean? Anybody know what that acronym means? I don't, because really it doesn't get you anything, except you feel
Very
good
important payment towards my light bill.
Very important payment.
Patreon,
Although we're working on, actually, I'm talking with our webmaster about creating a special website where you can have access to all files and download everything, and all these things that would make being a VIP useful, and maybe some additional discussions and things like that. But right now, you get nothing
Maybe
but that
a
holiday.
members only stream someday,
Yeah.
Patreon only.
No, we don't have that kind of clout.
No.
Yeah.
It's just the Joe Rogan world that we don't live in. Although he's exclusive to Spotify, right? Yeah, so you have to pay a subscription. No, we're not going to do that. But we do appreciate the tip jar, and you can go to patreon.com/Bob Rivers. If you've listened to this long, you definitely have a problem and are making bad decisions with your time. So we like you a lot. All right, thank you very much for listening.
Happy New Year,
All right.
everybody.
By the
New
way,
Year.
Zip was sick if you tuned in the end, and Ed Kelly was off with his family this week. Thank you to Shawn Alexander, Andrew Rivers, and Spike for joining in. Cheers. This is the part where I think I would play the jingle one more time.
The Bob and Zip Show.